Captain Jake Morrison stood on the bridge of Aurora's Dream and watched the stars. His ship moved through space toward Centauri Station. This was the most important trip humans had ever made. After 50 years of watching Earth, the Galactic Council would decide if humans could join them. Jake was 35 years old and had been in space for half his life. He had short brown hair and calm blue eyes. The Council picked him to lead this mission because he could stay cool under pressure, but right now, his hands were shaking just a little. "Captain, we're getting close to the station," said Lisa Hayes from her chair. She was the communications officer. Lisa had red hair and a quick smile. She could speak 12 different alien languages. The Council said humans needed someone who could talk to anyone. "How long until we dock?" Jake asked. 20 minutes, sir," Ryan Clark answered. He was the tactical officer. Ryan was tall and strong with black hair and serious eyes. He worried about keeping everyone safe. The aliens said humans were too violent, but Ryan proved they could be peaceful when needed. Maya Torres looked up from her engineering station. She had dark skin and was the smartest person Jake knew. She could fix anything that broke. "All systems are good, Captain." "The ship is ready," Jake nodded. His crew was the best Earth had to offer. They trained for 3 years for this mission. Everything depended on them showing the aliens that humans belonged in space. The view screen showed Centauri Station ahead. It was huge, bigger than any city on Earth. Ships from dozens of worlds docked there. Jake had never seen so many different alien vessels in one place. "Incoming message from the station," Lisa said. "Put it on screen." A tall, thin alien appeared on the view screen. Her skin was pale blue and her eyes were silver. She had no hair and wore a simple gray uniform. When she spoke, her voice was flat and cold. "I am Zara 9 of the Calarian Diplomatic Corps. I will be your cultural liaison during your stay. Dock at Bay 7. Follow all protocols exactly. Any mistakes will be noted in your evaluation." The screen went dark. "Friendly," Ryan muttered. "She's just doing her job," Jake said. But he wondered if this Zara 9 would help them or make things harder. The docking went smoothly. Jake and his crew put on their dress uniforms and walked through the airlock into the station. The gravity felt strange, lighter than Earth normal. The air smelled different too, like metal and ozone. Zara 9 waited for them in the docking bay. Up close, she was even taller than Jake thought. She must have been 7 feet tall. Her silver eyes looked at each human like they were insects under a microscope. "Welcome to Centauri Station," she said. "I will show you to your quarters. Then we will begin orientation." As they walked through the station corridors, Jake saw aliens he had only read about in reports. Blue-skinned Aquarians moved like they were swimming through air. Rock-like granite beings spoke in low rumbles. Tall, graceful windwalkers seemed to float as they moved, but none of them looked at the humans with any warmth. Some stared with curiosity. Others seemed disgusted. A few looked afraid. "Why do they all seem to hate us?" Lisa whispered. Zara 9 heard her. "They do not hate you. They are concerned. Your species displays dangerous emotional patterns that other races evolved past long ago." "Dangerous how?" Jake asked. "You form attachments. You feel fear, anger, love. These emotions cloud judgment and lead to poor decisions. Most species learned to control such primitive responses thousands of years ago." Maya frowned. "You think emotions are primitive?" "I do not think I know. Emotions cause wars, suffering, and chaos. The Galactic Council has kept peace for 8,000 years by making logical decisions without emotional interference." They reached their quarters. The rooms were clean but bare like prison cells. There were no decorations, no colors, nothing that might cause an emotional response. "Rest for 4 hours, Zara 9 said. Then report to Conference Room Alpha for your first evaluation." After she left, the crew gathered in Jake's room. "This is going to be harder than we thought," Ryan said. "They think we're crazy for having feelings." "Maybe we can show them that emotions make us stronger," Lisa suggested. "How do we prove that to people who don't want to feel anything?" Maya asked. Jake looked out the window at the stars. "We be ourselves. We show them what humans can do when we care about something. If they want to see our emotions, let's give them something to see." 4 hours later, they reported to Conference Room Alpha. The room was huge and filled with aliens from dozens of worlds. At the center sat 5 beings who made up the evaluation committee. They looked ancient and cold. The committee leader, a creature that looked like a walking tree, spoke in a voice like wind through leaves. Humans of Earth, you seek membership in the Galactic Council. We will test your species over the next 30 days. You must prove you can think logically, act rationally, and control your emotional responses. We understand, Jake said. Do you? Your species has a history of violence, war, and irrational behavior driven by feelings. Can you prove you have evolved beyond such primitive responses? Jake felt anger rise in his chest, but he pushed it down. We can prove that our emotions make us better, not worse. The tree creature's branches rustled. Interesting. Your first test begins tomorrow. You will work with representatives from other worlds to solve a crisis on the border. We will see if humans can think clearly when lives are at stake. As they left the conference room, Zara 9 walked beside Jake. You should know, she said quietly. Most of the committee expects you to fail. They believe humans are too emotional to handle real responsibility. What do you think? Jake asked. Zara 9 stopped walking and looked at him with those silver eyes. For just a moment, Jake thought he saw something there, some small spark of curiosity. I think you are the most interesting species I've ever studied, she said. Then she walked away, leaving Jake to wonder what that meant. The next morning, Jake and his crew entered the mission briefing room. Representatives from 6 different worlds sat around a large table. The air felt tense, like everyone was waiting for the humans to mess up. A holographic display showed a mining colony on the edge of known space. Red warning symbols flashed across the screen. The situation is simple, said Commander Vex, a gray-skinned mineral who led the briefing. Separatist raiders have taken control of mining station Beta 7. They hold 200 workers hostage and demand the council withdraw from this sector. Jake studied the display. The station hung in space around a dead planet, far from any help. How long before council forces can reach them? 12 days, Vex replied. The hostages have food and air for 8. Then we need to get there faster, Lisa said. A tall windwalker named Seer Prime laughed, a sound like whistling wind. Typical human response. Rush in without thinking. This requires careful planning. People will die while we plan, Ryan said, his voice hard. Some deaths are acceptable. If they prevent larger conflicts, replied Keth 5, a Calarian like Zara 9. We must consider the bigger picture. Maya leaned forward. You're talking about real people. They have families, children waiting for them to come home. Emotional thinking, Keth 5 said. This is exactly why humans cannot handle galactic responsibility. Zara 9 had been quiet during the exchange, but now she spoke. Perhaps we should hear all options before deciding. Jake looked at her with surprise. She was supposed to be on the council's side, but something in her voice sounded different. For the next 3 hours, the group debated different approaches. The aliens wanted to negotiate, send messages, and follow proper diplomatic channels. Jake's team kept pushing for faster action. The raiders won't negotiate, Jake argued. They're desperate. People die when desperate people feel cornered. You know this how? Asked Seer Prime. Because we've been desperate too. Humans know what it feels like to have nothing left to lose. More emotional reasoning, Keth 5 said with disgust. The meeting ended with no decision. The aliens would spend 2 more days analyzing data and creating the perfect plan. Jake wanted to scream, but he kept his face calm. That evening, Jake found Zara 9 in the station's observation deck. She stood looking out at the stars, completely still. She reminded him of a statue. Can I ask you something? Jake said, walking up beside her. You may ask. Do you ever feel anything? Happiness, sadness, anger? Zara 9 was quiet for a long moment. My people evolved beyond such things. We removed emotional responses from our genetics 3,000 years ago. It allowed us to build a perfect society. Perfect how? No wars, no crime, no suffering caused by irrational decisions. Every choice is made with pure logic. Jake watched a small ship dock at the station. The pilot was probably going home to family, to people who love them. Sounds lonely. Loneliness is an emotion. We do not experience it. But don't you miss it? The good feelings, I mean. Joy, love, excitement. Zara 9 turned to look at him. How can I miss something I never had? Everyone has feelings. Maybe your people just learned to hide them really well. You're wrong, We tested our genetics thoroughly. Emotions are gone. Jake nodded, but he wasn't convinced. Something in her silver eyes seemed alive, curious, maybe even sad. The next day brought terrible news. Maya got a message from Earth. Her father was in the hospital dying. She sat at her workstation and cried, not caring who saw her. Ryan put his hand on her shoulder. He's tough. He'll pull through. He raised me by himself after Mom died, Maya whispered. I should be there. The mission needs you here, Lisa said gently. But we understand if you want to go home. No. Maya wiped her eyes and sat up straight. Dad would want me to finish this. He always said humans belong in the stars. Jake felt proud of his engineer, but he noticed the aliens watching Maya with confusion and disgust. To them, she was being weak and irrational. Zara 9 approached Maya's station. Your emotional display is disrupting the work environment. Perhaps you should report to medical for medication to suppress these responses. Maya looked up at her. I'm grieving. It's normal when someone you love is dying. Love is inefficient. It serves no logical purpose. Love is what makes us human. It's what makes life worth living. Life's purpose is survival and progress. Emotions interfere with both. Ryan stood up, anger flashing in his eyes. That's the coldest thing I've ever heard. It is logical, Zara 9 replied, but something in her voice seemed uncertain. Jake stepped between them. Maybe we should focus on the mission. But the damage was done. Word spread through the station that humans were emotionally unstable. The committee called an emergency meeting. This confirms our concerns, the tree creature said. Humans cannot separate personal feelings from professional duties. Maya is still working, Jake argued. Her grief doesn't stop her from doing her job, but it affects her judgment. Today she suggested we take unnecessary risks to save the hostages quickly. This is emotional thinking. Or maybe it's the right thing to do. Right and wrong are emotional concepts. There is only logical and illogical. Jake felt the walls closing in. Everything his team did was seen as weakness. Their compassion was called primitive. Their desire to help others was labeled dangerous. That night he couldn't sleep. He walked the empty corridors of the station, thinking about the hostages waiting to die while the council debated. He thought about Maya's father alone in a hospital bed. He thought about his crew trying so hard to prove they belonged here. He found himself back at the observation deck. Zara 9 was there again, in the same spot, looking at the same stars. You come here often, he said. I find the view instructive. Jake joined her at the window. What do you think about out there? I analyze stellar formations and consider trade routes. That's it? Nothing else? Zara 9 was quiet for a long time. Sometimes I wonder what it would be like to travel between those stars, to see new worlds, to discover things no one has found before. That sounds like curiosity to me. It is logical interest in expanding knowledge, if you say so. Jake smiled. But it sounds like wonder. Wonder is an emotion. Yeah, it is. Zara 9 turned to study his face. Why do you not fear me? Other humans seem uncomfortable around my people. Should I be afraid? We are your judges. We will decide your species' fate. Jake shrugged. Being afraid won't change anything. Besides, I think you're more curious about us than disgusted. You are wrong. Maybe. But I've seen you watching us. Really watching. Like you're trying to figure something out. Zara 9 looked back at the stars. Your species is confusing. You make decisions that seem irrational, yet they often work out well. You sacrifice for others with no logical benefit. You create art with no practical purpose. I do not understand why. Maybe understanding isn't the point. Maybe some things just feel right. Feel. Zara 9 repeated the word like it was foreign. What does that mean exactly? Jake thought about how to explain feelings to someone who claimed not to have them. It's hard to describe. It's like, when you look at those stars, something inside you responds. Not your brain, but something deeper. Something that makes you want to be part of that beauty. Zara 9 stared at the stars for a long moment. I think I do not understand. That's okay. Maybe someday you will. As Jake walked back to his quarters, he didn't notice that Zara 9 stayed at the window for 3 more hours, staring at the stars and trying to understand the strange feeling growing in her chest. On the 3rd day, the crisis at Mining Station Beta 7 got worse. The raiders cut off all communication and started threatening to kill hostages. The council still wanted to negotiate, but Jake knew they were running out of time. We need to act now, he said during the morning briefing. Every hour we wait, those people get closer to death. Commander Vex shook his gray head. Hasty action could get everyone killed. We must follow procedure. Your procedures will get them killed anyway, Ryan said, his fists clenched. This is exactly the emotional response we expected from humans. Keth 5 added. You cannot think clearly when others are in danger. Jake looked around the table at the alien faces. They were all calm, logical, and completely cold. How had they kept peace for 8,000 years without caring about anyone? Zara 9 spoke up. Perhaps we could consider a compromise. Send a small team to gather intelligence while the main negotiations continue. Everyone stared at her. This was the first time she had suggested anything that wasn't strictly by the rules. That is not standard procedure, Keth 5 said, looking at his fellow Calarian with suspicion. But it is logical, Zara 9 replied. More information would help us make better decisions. The committee agreed to let Jake and Zara 9 take a scout ship to the mining station. They would observe and report back, nothing more. No rescue attempts, no contact with the raiders. As they prepared to leave, Lisa pulled Jake aside. Be careful out there. Something about this feels wrong. I'll watch our backs, Jake promised. Their ship was small and fast, designed for reconnaissance. Jake piloted while Zara 9 operated the sensors. The trip would take 18 hours at maximum speed. During the long journey, Jake tried to learn more about his strange companion. She answered his questions, but always with careful, logical responses. How long have you studied humans? He asked. 4 years, 2 months, 16 days. That's very precise. Precision is important for accurate analysis. What did you think when you first saw us? Zara 9 was quiet for a moment. I thought you were chaos in biological form. Unpredictable, dangerous, primitive, and now I think, you are more complex than my initial assessment suggested. Jake smiled. That's progress, I guess. Progress toward what? Understanding. Maybe even friendship. Friendship is an emotional bond between individuals. Calarians do not form such connections. Maybe you should try it sometime. Why would I want to experience something that serves no logical purpose? Jake thought about how to answer that. Because it feels good. Because it makes life more meaningful. Because even the smartest person in the universe can't figure everything out alone. Zara 9 studied his face with those silver eyes. You speak of feelings as if they are beneficial. My research indicates emotions cause suffering. They can. But they also cause joy, love, hope, and courage. The good stuff makes the bad stuff worth it. That makes no logical sense? Exactly. Some of the best things in life don't make sense. They just are. When they reached the mining station, they found it surrounded by 3 raider ships. The station's hull showed blast damage and several sections had lost power. Scan for life signs, Jake ordered. Zara 9 worked her instruments. I detect 186 humans still alive aboard the station. Down from 200, Jake's heart sank. They were already losing people. Can you tell where the hostages are being held? Central Cargo Bay. The raiders have them grouped together, probably for easier control. And the raiders? 15 beings, various species. They appear to be desperate refugees from the Outer Rim Wars. Jake studied the tactical display. The raiders were scared and cornered. That made them incredibly dangerous, but it also gave him an idea. We need to get closer, he said. Our orders are to observe only. People are dying in there. We need better intelligence. Against her better judgment, Zara 9 helped him maneuver the ship closer to the station. They were scanning the cargo bay when everything went wrong. One of the raider ships detected them and opened fire. Their small scout ship had no weapons and weak shields. The first blast knocked out their engines. We're drifting toward the station, Jake said, fighting with the controls. I can't stop us. Hull breach in Section 3, Zara 9 reported. We're losing air. The ship spun helplessly toward the mining station's docking bay. Jake managed to get the emergency thrusters working just enough to slow their impact. but the crash landing was still brutal. When Jake woke up, his head was bleeding and Zara 9 was unconscious beside him. The ship's emergency systems were failing, and he could hear air leaking out through cracks in the hull. He checked Zara 9's pulse. It was weak but steady. She had a deep cut on her forehead and her left arm hung at an odd angle. The ship's computer was damaged but still working. Jake sent out a distress signal, but he knew help was days away. The raiders would find them long before rescue arrived. "Zara 9, he said gently, shaking her shoulder. "Wake up, we need to move." Her silver eyes opened slowly. "What happened?" "We crashed. The raiders shot us down." She tried to sit up and gasped in pain. "My arm is broken." Jake looked around their wrecked ship. The air was getting thin and he could hear footsteps outside. "The raiders had found them. Can you walk?" he asked. "I believe so." "Then we need to go. Now." Jake helped her stand and they moved toward the ship's emergency exit. Behind them, he could hear the raiders trying to cut through the hull. They emerged into the mining station's docking bay. The artificial gravity was working, but the air tasted stale and recycled. Emergency lights cast long shadows between cargo containers. "This way," Jake whispered, leading her toward a maintenance tunnel. "Wait," Zara 9 said. "We should surrender. They might let us live if we cooperate. These people have nothing to lose. They'll kill us to send a message to the council. Then we should hide and wait for rescue." Jake looked at her broken arm and pale face. "You're hurt. You need medical attention." "My condition is not severe. I can survive until help arrives. I'm not leaving you here." "That is illogical. You could escape more easily without me." Jake met her silver eyes. "I don't abandon my friends. I am not your friend. I am your evaluator. Maybe that's how this started, but it's not how I see you now." Zara 9 stared at him. "You would risk your life for someone who is judging whether your species deserves to survive?" "Yes, why?" Jake smiled despite their dangerous situation. "Because that's what humans do. We care about people even when it's not logical." Before Zara 9 could respond, footsteps echoed through the docking bay. The raiders had found their ship and were spreading out to search for them. Jake and Zara 9 crawled through the maintenance tunnel, moving deeper into the station. Behind them, angry voices shouted in several alien languages. "They're looking for us," Zara 9 whispered. "We need to find the hostages," Jake said. "Maybe we can help them. Our mission is to observe and report. Our mission just changed." They reached a junction in the tunnel system. Through a grating, Jake could see into the central cargo bay. 200 humans sat huddled together under the watchful eyes of armed raiders. One of the hostages was a young girl, maybe 8 years old. She was crying quietly while her mother held her close. The sight hit Jake like a punch to the chest. "We have to do something," he said. "We cannot fight 15 armed raiders. We don't have to fight them. We just have to be smarter." Jake studied the cargo bay layout, looking for weaknesses. The raiders had explosives wired to the main doors, ready to blow if anyone tried to force entry. But there were other ways in and out. "The ventilation system," he said. "We could get in through there. And then what?" "You cannot evacuate 200 people through air ducts." "No, but maybe we can level the playing field." Jake explained his plan. It was risky and probably crazy, but it might work. Zara 9 listened with growing alarm. "This has almost no chance of success," she said when he finished. "Better than no chance at all. You could die. People are going to die anyway if we don't. Try." Zara 9 looked through the grating at the hostages. The little girl had stopped crying and was now trying to comfort an elderly man who was having trouble breathing. "I do not understand," she said quietly. "Understand what?" "Why you would risk everything for strangers." "It serves no logical purpose." Jake followed her gaze to the little girl. "Maybe logic isn't the point. Maybe some things are worth doing just because they're right. Right and wrong are emotional concepts, are they? Or are they something deeper? Something that doesn't need logic to make sense?" Zara 9 was quiet for a long time. When she finally spoke, her voice was different, softer somehow. "I will help you," she said. "Why?" "I do not know. It feels necessary." Jake looked at her with surprise. "Did you just say something feels necessary?" Zara 9's silver eyes widened as she realized what she had said. For the first time in her long life, she had made a decision based on feeling rather than logic. "I think," she whispered, "something is happening to me." Jake and Zara 9 spent the next 6 hours crawling through ventilation shafts and maintenance tunnels. Her broken arm slowed them down, but she never complained. Jake noticed she was breathing differently, like someone learning to feel pain for the first time. They managed to disable the Raiders' communication array and cause several power failures throughout the station. In the confusion, Jake created an opening for some hostages to escape. It wasn't perfect, but 60 people made it to emergency shelters before the Raiders realized what was happening. By the time rescue ships arrived, Jake and Zara 9 had saved half the hostages. The Council forces captured the remaining Raiders without a fight. The mission was a success, but Jake felt hollow inside. During the trip back to Centauri Station, Zara 9 was quieter than usual. She sat in the co-pilot seat, staring out at the stars with a strange expression on her face. "Are you okay?" Jake asked. "I am experiencing something I do not understand," she said. "When I saw that child crying, something inside me wanted to help her. Not because it was logical, but because her pain caused me discomfort. That's called empathy. I know what empathy is. Killarians removed it from our genetics. Maybe you can't remove everything that makes someone alive." Zara 9 touched her chest, right over her heart. "I feel strange, like something is awakening that was always there." When they docked at Centauri Station, Jake's crew was waiting with worried faces. Lisa hugged him tight while Ryan clapped his shoulder. Maya had tears in her eyes. "We thought you were dead," Lisa said. "The committee wanted to wait for official reports before sending rescue ships." "They were going to let us die?" Jake asked. "They said it would be illogical to risk more lives for 2 people," Ryan replied, anger in his voice. Jake looked at Zara 9. She was watching his crew's emotional reunion with fascination and something that might have been longing. "Is this normal human behavior?" she asked quietly. "What do you mean?" Maya said. "This display of affection for returned companions. Is it standard protocol?" "It's not protocol," Lisa laughed. "We were worried about you both. We care about what happens to you. You care about me, but I am not human, so what? You're our friend." Zara 9 stared at Lisa like she had said something impossible. "Friends? You consider me a friend, of course. You helped save all those people. You risked your life for strangers. I still do not understand why I did that." Maya smiled. "Maybe you're more human than you think." That evening, Jake was summoned to meet with the evaluation committee. The mood in the conference room was dark and cold. "Your actions at the mining station were reckless and dangerous," the tree creature said. "You ignored direct orders and nearly caused a diplomatic incident." "We saved lives," Jake replied. "You acted on emotion instead of logic. This confirms our fears about human decision-making. Our emotions saved 60 people who would have died. While you debated, some losses are acceptable in service of the greater good." Jake felt anger burning in his chest. Those weren't acceptable losses. They were people with families, dreams, and lives worth living. Emotional attachment to strangers is irrational. No, it's human. The committee members exchanged glances. The tree creature leaned forward. "After careful consideration, we have reached a decision. Humanity may join the Galactic Council, but only under specific conditions." Jake's heart raced. "What conditions?" "Your species must undergo emotional suppression therapy. We have developed treatments that will reduce your emotional responses to manageable levels. You will retain basic feelings but lose the dangerous extremes that cause irrational behavior. You want to change who we are. We want to help you evolve beyond primitive emotional responses. And if we refuse, then humanity remains quarantined to your home system. No galactic citizenship, no access to advanced technology, no travel beyond your own star." Jake felt the weight of his species' future on his shoulders. Everything they had worked for came down to this moment. Give up their humanity to gain the stars or stay human and stay alone. "How long do we have to decide?" he asked. "You have 1 day. Then you return to Earth with our offer." Jake left the meeting feeling crushed. He found his crew in their quarters and told them about the committee's ultimatum. "They want to lobotomize our entire species," Ryan said, pacing angrily. "Maybe it's not that bad," Lisa said. "We'd still be human, just more controlled." "Would we?" Maya asked. "What makes us human if not our ability to feel deeply?" "But think about what we'd gain," Lisa continued. "Access to technologies that could solve all our problems. Clean energy, medical advances, space travel. At the cost of our souls," Ryan replied. Jake listened to his team debate, but his mind was elsewhere. He kept thinking about Zara 9, about the way she looked when she saw the crying child. Something was awakening in her, something her people thought they had destroyed forever. He found her in the observation deck again, standing at the same window. But tonight she looked different. Her perfect posture was slightly slumped and her silver eyes seemed troubled. "The committee told you about their decision," she said without turning around. "Yes. What will you choose?" Jake joined her at the window. "I don't know. It's an impossible choice, is it? Your species gains access to the galaxy. You just have to give up dangerous emotional responses. Like the ones that made you help those hostages?" Zara 9 turned to look at him. "I have been thinking about that. I still do not understand why I acted as I did. Maybe understanding isn't necessary. Maybe you just did what felt right. But feelings are primitive, irrational, dangerous, are they? You felt empathy for strangers and risked your life to help them. How is that dangerous?" Zara 9 was quiet for a long moment. "My people will not be pleased with my behavior during the mission." "What do you mean?" "I have been ordered to report for evaluation tomorrow. They believe I have been contaminated by prolonged exposure to human emotions." Jake felt a chill run down his spine. "What kind of evaluation?" "Memory modification. They will remove any emotional responses I may have developed and restore my proper logical thinking. They're going to erase your memories, only the corrupted ones. I will remember our mission, but not the feelings I experienced." Jake stared at her. "You'll forget what it felt like to care about those hostages. You'll forget the moment you decided to help them." "Yes. And you're okay with that?" Zara 9 looked back at the stars. "I should be. It is the logical choice. These new feelings cause confusion and discomfort, but they also caused you to save lives." "Yes. So maybe they're not something to be removed. Maybe they're something to be treasured." Zara 9 met his eyes. "I do not know how to treasure anything. I do not even know what treasure means." Jake moved closer to her. "It means to value something, to keep it safe, to protect it because it's precious to you. Like friendship? Like friendship, like love, like hope. Love." Zara 9 repeated the word like she was tasting it. "During our mission, when you refused to leave me behind, was that love?" "Part of it. And when I felt the need to help those strangers, was that love too?" "A different kind, but yes." Zara 9 nodded slowly. "Then I think I am beginning to understand. Love is not logical, but it is powerful. Very powerful. Powerful enough to change someone. Powerful enough to change everything." They stood in silence watching the stars. Jake knew that tomorrow everything would change. The committee would give him their ultimatum, and Zara 9 would lose everything that made her special. "Can I ask you something before you leave?" Zara 9 said suddenly. Jake's heart stopped. This was it, the moment from the title. Everything had been building to this. Of course, Zara 9 turned to face him fully. Her silver eyes were bright with something that might have been tears. "If I could choose to keep these feelings, to refuse the memory modification, would you help me? Would you teach me how to be human?" Jake felt his heart breaking and soaring at the same time. She was choosing to feel, choosing to be vulnerable, choosing to love, but it would cost her everything. "Yes," he said, "I would help you. But are you sure? You'd be giving up your old life, your people, everything you've known." "I know, but for the first time in my existence I feel truly alive." "Is that worth fighting for?" Jake reached out and took her uninjured hand. Her skin was cool, but he could feel warmth beginning to flow through it. "Yes," he said, "it's worth everything. Tomorrow would bring impossible choices and terrible consequences. But tonight in the starlight, a Calarian learned what it meant to feel hope." The next morning came too soon. Jake had barely slept, knowing that today would decide the fate of both humanity and the woman he was falling in love with. When he met his crew for breakfast, they all looked as tired as he felt. "Any word from Earth?" he asked Lisa. "The president wants our recommendation. The whole planet is waiting for our decision." "No pressure," Ryan muttered. Maya looked up from her untouched food. "Got word from home too. Dad's stable but still critical. The doctors say human emotions and family support are helping him fight." Jake nodded. Even facing the biggest decision in human history, his crew was dealing with personal pain and hope. It proved his point better than any argument could. At exactly 0900 hours, Jake reported to the committee chambers alone. The 5 ancient beings sat in judgment, their faces cold and unmoved. "Have you reached a decision regarding our offer?" the tree creature asked. "I have," Jake said. "But first I want to make a counter-proposal." You are in no position to negotiate. Hear me out. What if humanity's emotions aren't a weakness? What if they're exactly what the galaxy needs? The committee members exchanged glances. Explain. Jake took a deep breath. You've had peace for 8,000 years, but at what cost? You've also had stagnation. No new art. No breakthrough discoveries, no leaps of imagination. You've eliminated war. But you've also eliminated everything that makes life worth living. Peace and stability are preferable to chaos and suffering. But what about growth? What about love, hope, creativity? What about the willingness to sacrifice for others? When was the last time any of your species produced a work of art that moved people to tears? When did anyone discover something amazing just because they were curious? When did anyone risk their life for a stranger? Such behaviors are inefficient. No, they're human. And they're what allowed us to save those hostages while you debated. They're what drives us to explore the unknown, to create beauty, to never give up when others would surrender. The committee leader leaned forward. You would have us believe that primitive emotional responses are beneficial? I would have you consider that maybe you've lost something important. Maybe humanity can help you remember what it means to be truly alive. Before the committee could respond, the chamber doors burst open. Zara 9 strode in, flanked by 2 Calarian security officers. She had refused her memory modification and was now considered dangerous. I apologize for the interruption, she said. Her voice steady but different somehow. But I have something to say. Zara 9, you were ordered to report for memory adjustment, Keth 5 said angrily. I refused. That is impossible. Calarians do not refuse logical medical treatment. This Calarian does. Zara 9 walked to the center of the chamber. Jake could see she was trembling slightly, but her silver eyes were determined. For my entire life I have lived as you expected, she said to the committee. I followed every rule, obeyed every protocol, made every decision based on pure logic. I was the perfect Calarian. And now you are contaminated, the tree creature said with disgust. No, now I am awake. Zara 9 turned to face Jake, and he saw something in her expression that took his breath away. She was looking at him with love, pure and simple. 3 days ago I met humans for the first time. I expected to find chaos and primitive behavior. Instead, I found something my people lost long ago. I found life. Emotions are not life, Keth 5 argued. They are obstacles to logical existence. Are they? Then explain this. Zara 9 addressed the full committee. When I saw those hostages suffering, something inside me responded. Not my brain, not my training, but something deeper. It told me to help them, even at personal risk. Was that response wrong? It was irrational, but it saved lives. How can saving lives be wrong? Because it served no logical purpose. It served the highest purpose of all. It honored the value of life itself. Jake watched as Zara 9 spoke with growing passion. She was becoming more human before his eyes, and it was beautiful. Humans taught me something else, she continued. They taught me that some things are worth more than survival. Love, hope, friendship, sacrifice. These things give meaning to existence. Meaning is irrelevant, the tree creature said. Is it? Then why do you fear humans so much? Why do you want to change them? Because deep down, you know they have something you lost. They have the courage to feel deeply, to care about others, to risk everything for what they believe in. The chamber fell silent. For the first time in 8,000 years, someone was challenging the council's fundamental beliefs. Zara 9 took Jake's hand. Humans are not perfect. They make mistakes, they feel pain, they sometimes choose poorly, but they also love with incredible strength. They create beauty that serves no practical purpose except to inspire joy. They sacrifice themselves for strangers without expecting reward. They never stop hoping even when hope seems impossible. And this is what you choose? Keth 5 asked his fellow Calarian. Pain, uncertainty, irrational decisions? I choose life, Zara 9 replied. Real life with all its messiness and wonder. I choose to feel. Jake squeezed her hand and stepped forward. This is my answer to your ultimatum. Humanity rejects your offer. We won't change who we are to join your galaxy. Instead, we offer to teach you what you've forgotten. Teach us what? The tree creature asked. How to live. How to love. How to find meaning beyond mere survival. You would risk permanent isolation for these primitive concepts? We would risk everything for them. The committee members spoke among themselves in hushed tones. Finally, the tree creature turned back to Jake and Zara 9. You realize the consequences of your choice. Humanity will remain quarantined. You will receive no advanced technology, no galactic citizenship. We understand. And you, Zara 9, you will be exiled from Calarian space. Your people will disown you. I understand. Very well. This evaluation is concluded. You have 1 hour to leave the station. As the committee began to file out, something unexpected happened. Seer Prime, the Windwalker representative, stopped and turned back. Wait, he said. I wish to hear more about these human concepts. The tree creature paused. Seer Prime? For 2,000 years I have felt empty inside. I thought it was the natural state of enlightened beings. But watching these humans, I wonder if we have lost something essential. You cannot be serious. I am very serious. When did any of us last feel joy at seeing a sunrise? When did we last create something beautiful just because we wanted to? When did we last sacrifice for another without calculating the benefit? One by one, other representatives began to nod. The Aquarian delegate spoke up. My people have had no new music for centuries. We have forgotten how to sing. Mine have not painted in a millennium, added the granite representative. We build only what is functional. The tree creature looked around the chamber in horror. You are all contaminated. Maybe, Seer Prime said. Or maybe we are remembering. Jake felt hope rising in his chest. We could work together. Humans could establish an embassy here. We could share our culture, our emotions, our humanity. Not to replace your logic, but to balance it. A compromise, the tree creature asked. A partnership. The debate that followed lasted 6 hours. In the end, the committee reached an unprecedented decision. Humanity would be granted provisional membership in the Galactic Council. They would not be required to suppress their emotions, but they would serve as cultural advisors, helping other species rediscover the feelings they had abandoned. Jake and Zara 9 would run the first Emotional Studies Institute, teaching aliens about human concepts like love, art, music, and hope. 6 months later, Jake stood on the observation deck of the newly constructed institute, watching ships arrive from across the galaxy. Beings who had lived without feeling for thousands of years were coming to learn how to be alive again. Zara 9 joined him at the window. She looked completely different now, more relaxed and radiant. Her silver eyes sparkled with warmth and mischief. The first class starts tomorrow, she said. 50 students from 20 different worlds. Nervous? Jake asked, excited. Is that the right word? Perfect word. They watched a particularly graceful ship dock at the station. Inside were probably beings who had never experienced wonder, joy, or love. Do you ever regret it? Jake asked. Giving up your old life? Zara 9 considered the question. Sometimes I miss the simplicity of logic. Emotions can be painful and confusing, but they also make every moment more meaningful. Yesterday I watched a sunset and felt something I can only call happiness. Last week I listened to human music and experienced beauty so intense it brought tears to my eyes. This morning I woke up next to you and felt complete. Jake pulled her closer. Any regrets about falling in love with a primitive, emotional human? Zara 9 laughed to sound like silver bells. Only one. What's that? I wish I had found you sooner. They stood together in comfortable silence, watching the stars. Around them, the station buzzed with activity as professors and students prepared for humanity's greatest experiment. They were going to teach an entire galaxy how to feel again. Can I ask you something? Zara 9 said suddenly. Always. What do humans call this feeling when you want to stay in a moment forever? Jake smiled and kissed her forehead. Love. We call it love. In the distance, Earth's sun shone among the stars and humanity's heart beat.